Saints fans and Whodats from all over the world. It's time for the Bayou Blitz. With your host, Bob Rose.
Good evening, New Orleans Saints fans. Fans that are left of the NFL and fans of the Bayou Blitz. I am Bob Rose. I am one of your co-hosts for the Bayou Blitz, and we want to thank you for having us into your homes and over your airwaves again on a Wednesday night. Joining me, as always, is my tap dancing partner, Mr. Kyle T. Mosley. How are you tonight, Kyle?
Tap dancing. I'd rather be Goodell dancing on his head right now. How you guys doing tonight? Who Dat Nation? Guys, keep your head up. And I only can imagine that we will see much, much brighter days with the travesty that we have witnessed in the National Football League these past week and a half. So you guys stay positive. And Drew said it best. We've been through a lot of stuff, and we persevered through a lot of stuff. So we will be able to maintain even through this. So, but Bob, man, how you guys doing? You are in that vortex up there in Pennsylvania right now, right?
Yeah, we are. I'm thinking about taking a trip a little bit north to Alaska and do some sunbathing because it's actually warmer up there than it is in western Pennsylvania. We are staring at a regular temperature of -2 degrees and wind chills anywhere between 15 and 20 below. And we'll be looking at the same tomorrow and possibly into Friday. So welcome to January north of the Mason-Dixon line. It's awful.
Oh, man, that's ungodly, man. Look. Stay warm, be safe. Don't try to do anything crazy out there on the roads if you guys don't have to get out. I know a lot of people still have to work, but, man, that's got to be really, 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 I guess, tough to be able to weather through, especially if you have a small kid in the family like you guys do.
He's tougher than we are. He keeps wanting to take his socks off and run around and everything like that. And the old man here, I'm wearing 2 pairs of socks, 2 shorts, two pairs of shirts rather, and fleece pants, and I'm still shivering. So when you get old, winter hurts a little bit more each year.
Oh yeah. The old lumbago don't work the way they used to.
Right.
Oh man, look, Bob, I just got to say this, man, and. Look, Who Dat Nation, I know a lot of you guys have pains and aches from what has been ailing you. So if we can be a little bit of therapy for you tonight, don't forget you can call into the show at 504-533-8444, man. And we'll be on from 8 to 9 and Central Standard Time and 9 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. So give us a call, okay?
Yeah, for sure. And that line is always open weekly, by the way. And I know as we've been putting out in the show promos, we're going to have Amy Duplessis join us in a little bit. We've had her on. She's a friend of the show, obviously a friend of both of ours. And she's been on talking about her experience as a former Saintsation cheerleader in the past. But tonight, I think I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say, because she's a business owner. I have a business right there in the French Quarter, and she is out in the middle of it. So I'm anxious to hear her say what it's been like, right in the middle of the heart of Who Dat Nation, which is, of course, right down there. And it is. And we all have a right to vent. We all have a right to our different feelings. I know you and I, we kind of had a therapeutic session last week. I think, what we've seen some of the Saints players come out with in social media over the last week, it's been a pretty wide variety. Sean Payton first spoke for the first time, at least at length, publicly. Look, I'm just like I said last week, no matter how much we want it, There was never going to be any replay of the game or replay of the final minute and a half. The Los Angeles Rams are not going to have an asterisk next to their name of NFC champions or Super Bowl champions, if they persevere against the New England Patriots. It is what it is. I am kind of sick of people saying, get over it, because this is, just like Coach Payton said, this is not the kind of thing you get over. But the major storyline for this team in the off season, off the field, obviously on the field, we're going to be talking about over the next few months, draft, free agency, et cetera. And there's some important needs and holes that this team needs to fill. But I think the number one priority is how this team overcomes the adversity. Nobody is saying get over it, and certainly nobody is saying forget about it. But you can better believe that people like Cam Jordan and Michael Thomas, two of the more vocal players on social media against Commissioner Goodell and his antics, they're not going to let this eat them up either. They know what needs to get done. They knew what needed to get done. This team did to get to the level that they were this season. And I think I'm hoping that the team is going to be even more focused next year than they were this year after the Minnesota playoff loss last year. But that is indeed going to be the major storyline for this offseason. And it's going to be an answer that we won't know until they get into the regular season of 2019.
Yeah. Well, I think Vegas has the odds for the Saints already at 8-1. Kansas City is the favorite at 5-1 right now. If you want to take some bets, go to Vegas and put your bucks down right now. I think that could be pretty good odds because Vegas, as well as most of America, thought the better lineup for Super Bowl lie, I would call it, the Super Bowl lie was going to be the Saints and the Chiefs. And the obvious thing, and the thing that I believe the NFL is not recognizing, is possibly there has been a tremendous impact financially on the Super Bowl, and it's hard to really quantify at this particular time, but I would guess, man, the Super Bowl right now without the Saints and the Chiefs could be down at least $100 million or more. So, and of course, that's my uneducated guess, Who Dat Nation, so I don't have any real numbers, but I can only guess because of what even bookmakers were doing as a result of that call, returning funds to the guys who put bets on that game, man. So you've only got to believe that there's some other underneath everything. Think about how many people from the Who Dat Nation in the Gulf Coast region would have traveled to Atlanta just to be in that city. And now you have people from New England, you have people from, well, do they even have a following in LA, right? that right now you have more people who are going to be scattered. Weather is now impacting the game. I heard Atlanta may suffer another ice storm or storm coming Super Bowl Sunday, like they had the last time they hosted the Super Bowl. But it's one of these situations, Bob, where, look, there's a financial impact. And the thing that Goodell would never address, and I'm not shocked that he did not address it, but to go out and say initially the state of the National Football League could not have been any better is a farce.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And I mean, we've seen this tap dance from him before. Maybe not to this severity, but certainly the NFL has been riddled with both on and off the field controversies, questionable ethics, right up to the commissioner's office himself. And yet he stands there with the city on fire behind him, looking right into the camera and saying everything is good, nothing to see here. So I don't really know what people expected from him because we have seen this song and dance before. I said it before many times before the NFC Championship, and I'll say it again. The major problem with the NFL is the commissioner's office right now.
Well,
and I realize that technically he and his immediate staff are hired and put in place by the NFL owners. But something needs to change about the hierarchy or something, because we never saw, and I realize I'm showing my age, but we never saw this kind of thing with Paul Tagliabue, and we certainly didn't with Pete Rozelle. Obviously, you're talking about a bunch of human beings, and nobody is perfect. There is not a flawless being on the planet. But like you and I were talking about before we went on air, as a reasonably intelligent human being myself, I find it insulting. Some of the, again, I'll use the term song and dance routine that we keep getting from them, just ignoring whatever problems are there and taking place. This game is awesome. This game is a terrific product on the field. It is full of great people, great teams, great athletes. And again, we said it last week, it's disappointing that we even have to have this conversation. Granted, it stinks that our Saints lost, and it doubly stinks at the way that it happened. But I would much rather be talking about football. Two terrific teams. Look, I take nothing away from the Los Angeles Rams. They are a wonderful team. And frankly, if they wouldn't have beat the Saints in the manner that they did, I would probably be openly rooting for them against New England. And I would much rather be talking about a great game between two great teams, with one team coming up a little bit short. But unfortunately, we know the topic over the last 2 weeks, and it's unfair.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say this and leave it. I think what's unfair also is the presumed legacy of Roger Goodell. Many people believe that it was Roger Goodell that saved the New Orleans Saints, but most of those people who believe that are unfamiliar with the contributions of Paul Tagliabue, making sure the New Orleans Saints stayed in New Orleans when he met with Mr. Benson. And I went to the games in San Antonio when we played in that stadium the year after Katrina, man. But I'm just going to say, guys, Roger Goodell has never been the friend to the New Orleans Saints the way Paul Tagliabue was the friend and the advocate. And people have to recall, even with the Bounty Gate situation, who's the one who came in and saved the season for Vilma and was Smith and those guys? Tagliabue.
It was Tagliabue, yeah.
Right. So I'm telling you, we have, and it's a travesty, in my opinion, even for the sports writers who have yet to vote Tagliabue into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's really a travesty that this commissioner, who did a lot to evolve the game to where we see it today, not the commissioner that we know, Roger Goodell, but Paul Tagliabue, was the one responsible for majority of what you see as the product that we have on the field from a week-to-week basis. Okay? And look, is that Amy? Are you with us on the
Yes. Hey, guys.
How you doing, Mr. Duplessis?
Good. How are y'all?
Good to have you. You've been
Thanks.
hearing Bob and I pontificate. So
Yes.
we want to get your thoughts as well.
Where do I even begin with this? I mean, where do you even begin with this? It's a travesty. I think a lot of us feel like football is such a big part of our lives. We work hard, and that's part of our release on the weekends or Monday Night Football. Suffering from the loss, it's the way it was taken from us, and then to have such a bad taste in your mouth left with the organization and the commissioner of this event that you love so much. Where do you go from here? You're like in this waiting period of like, oh my God, the NFL is horrid, and like, but this is what we know. So where do we go from here? as a fan base. It's that because you don't want to turn your back on your team at the same time. So I think everybody's kind of lost right now. I don't even know what to think. I alternate between just still angriness and it's almost like a heartache. It's like a breakup, sort of. You know what I mean? It is.
Yeah.
It's like I've known this since I was a small child. This is what my dad and I used to do, my uncles and I used to do. You grow up with it, and then all of a sudden it's like the record stops. You're like, wait, maybe this isn't what I thought it was. Where do I go from here?
Right. Well, it's the bold hypocrisy as well as the lies and the deceit that is coming from the highest position in the NFL, but Goodell, right? Mm-hmm. That is really unnerving, guys, because to say he spoke to Saints players and the players are like, which Saints player you spoke to? The only person that really has been acknowledged to have a conversation was Sean Payton, as well as just Sean Payton. He probably spoke to Mrs. Benson, but I mean, if you just listen to what he says, the credibility and the integrity of the National Football League is just oozing out ever so, not slowly, but very vigorously at this time.
I mean, the players don't respect him anymore. I mean, the Players Association hasn't really respected him for a while. A lot of people were soured with Bountygate, and that stuck with them. And then now this, the thing I've learned about Roger Goodell through this whole thing, the judge had recommended him to reinstate Sean Payton after the bounty. She found no evidence of a bounty. Her recommendation was to reinstate him. And he didn't. And he could have, because he is the kind that is never wrong and will never admit it if he is. And that's just what I have learned, or what I have observed him do with the players, with any kind of suspension, fine. Once his mind is made up, I don't care if you show it to him in black and white. He's not going to change his mind. And that's where his integrity is just left. He doesn't do the right thing in situations like that.
Not only that, Amy, and it's my opinion, we were talking about this earlier also, and it's been my opinion of Goodell this way for years, it's a very personal agenda with him.
Exactly.
Regardless, not just with the New Orleans Saints and Bountygate, as foul as that was, it's just the different situations that exist currently and have existed through the National Football League.
Yep.
Again, I'll use the imagery that I used before. He's the guy that will be standing right out in front of a city that's burning to the ground and saying everything is fine, nothing to see here. And again, I don't consider myself a person of high intelligence, but what intelligence I have is absolutely insulted by this conduct. And when you talked about lack of integrity, I think you nailed it right on the head, and it leaves you with a sick taste in your mouth.
It's gross, to be honest. I mean, it's gross. It's horrid. The players don't even respect it. I mean, you have Drew Brees, who is just Drew Brees, and I mean, he has no respect for the man. It shows. It shows in the statements he made after the game. It shows in the statements he made, during the Bountygate debacle. I mean, no integrity.
But look, if the biggest statement of the day wasn't him, it was Sean Payton's conference. It wasn't even his press conference. It was the shirt underneath what he was wearing.
Yeah.
That was the biggest statement of the day, guys. That shows you right there. If an NFL coach was really blatantly, how he kind of slyly left it open for people to kind of wonder what did he have on underneath. People knew what he had on underneath. Man, Bozo the Clown was about to step up in a few hours. That's what he was about to say. And what we saw was Bozo the Clown do it again. So he did not disappoint. But Sean Payton showed you and he proved your point, Amy. If the players don't respect him, golly, I'm pretty sure some of these coaches don't as well. That's all I'm saying.
I would bet a lot of money on that.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah, when I saw the post about Sean Payton wearing that shirt, I screamed in my shop, and I scared people because, I had customers in here, they were from Germany, and they were like, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And you try to explain to them with my Coach T-shirt, they're like, no, they don't understand. So, but yeah, I hollered.
I loved it.
Amy, you're literally right in the heart of New Orleans, heart and soul, many would say, and you're there on a daily basis. Tell us about the overall pulse of the fan base. I mean, Lord knows we've all been through disappointments before, heartbreaking, sick, disappointing, oftentimes frustrating and angering. Is this the lowest that you have seen this fan base?
I have never in my life seen it like this. And I can't compare anything to Katrina or after Katrina. That's just
right.
No, that's off limits. But this is like the Minnesota Miracle. Everybody was so upset about that. It was, you still had that vibe and everybody was sad. But everybody was so concerned about Marcus and how he felt. And we were writing him letters and people were sending him care packages. So we were focused on him feeling better. There were billboards up for him in the city. This is different. This is because we were wronged. And we already feel like the NFL hates us, and we already feel like Roger Goodell hates us. And so it's just impended, but it has been horrible. It really has. I've never experienced anything quite. The next day, oh, God, it was really sad. And you know what's wild is the next day, and probably not until Tuesday afternoon, did I hear any music. That's unheard of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even a lone trumpet. Nothing. It was crazy. And then when the brass band showed up Tuesday afternoon, I had a small one show up. But for about 4 days, the brass bands refused to play when the Saints go marching in. Not because they're mad at the Saints, because it hurt too bad. They literally, I heard them saying that. I have friends in them, and we just can't do it yet. So it's been sad sack days. Everybody's walking around, head down. But you see a lot of black and gold every day. People are still representing.
Yeah, and that's something that you have to love about the city, and the city itself, and just the region in general, is because they live. We live and die. No, I don't want to overstate it, but we live and die by the performance of our football team.
Basically.
And guys, I wanted to ask both of you this: is this the best New Orleans Saints team to not win a championship? We've seen some really, really good ones come and go. Forget about the way it ended for a minute. But I want to hear both of you spit out, if this is the best one that didn't win it all, and spit out a couple of other ones too.
Well, I still believe it's the 2011 team that was better, in my opinion. This team still had some deficiencies in that defensive backfield that was my concern. But that 2011 team, if they would have just held on to win, no doubt they would have destroyed the Giants, and no doubt they would have possibly gone in and defeated the I forgot who the Giants played. Was it New England that time?
Patriots.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
I really believe they would have had really a better chance at really beating the Patriots than the Giants did it, so I know we would have done it. So this team, I would say, has to be third on my list because the 2009 championship, Super Bowl championship, you've got to really say, other than them being number one, of course, the 2011 team has to be 1A, and this team has to be 1B, in my opinion.
Mine for me, I think 2011 is the best team as far as, I think they were the best physically. I think this team has been the best aside from 2009, chemistry-wise. It's been a completely different feeling in the locker room than there was for the 2011 guys. I mean, they were still tight and still there was chemistry, but I haven't really seen anything like the team from this year. So to me, in that aspect, they were my favorite besides 2009. But 2011, definitely physically and athletically, I think we're better.
The talent they had on
talent,
offense
totally, yep.
was really remarkable.
We still have gaps in this year. We did really well this year, but like you said, we still had gaps and we still had little things and problems and people we still needed in positions filled.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll obviously discuss those kind of things as the off season moves along. But one thing that stood out to me about this particular team is that they overcame most of those deficiencies that both of you mentioned in two ways. Number one, they were just they out-physicaled pretty much everybody that they played. And that overcomes a lot of deficiencies when you just beat somebody else up.
Yeah.
And secondly, the team chemistry, the togetherness, the overall oneness of the unit as a whole, I think overcomes some of those deficiencies as well. And because of those two reasons, I agree with you guys. You have to put 2009 at the top of the list because they finished the job. They won it all. To me, the 2011 team, it would be second on my list, and then third followed by this team. And probably rounding out my top five, I really love those Mora teams from 91, 92, or 92, 93. I think that they were unfortunate enough to play in the same division as the 49ers in those days. And of course, Mora getting overly conservative in the playoffs. But yeah, from a talent aspect and those particular teams achieved, they would probably round out my top five. So we're pretty much in agreement.
Yeah.
Amy, do you think that the Saints as a team, are you concerned with their emotional and mental makeup heading into next season, or are you pretty confident that they're going to rebound?
I mean, okay, at this point in time, I think there's still a lot of hurt. I think I've mentioned before on the show, I have a special group of girls that I talk football with, and they're my ride or die. And we were discussing this afternoon how, just the way that they are on Twitter right now, like I'm concerned about Michael Thomas. I think they're taking it really hard. I think he's petty. He's been commenting a lot of petty things on the NFL, which I like, and that's his personality. But read between the lines, and to me, that's hurt. I think they're hurt, and I think they're like we are. It's going to take a while. I mean, Sean Payton said he stayed in his cave. He stayed in his room for 3 days, and didn't come out and ate ice cream and, binge Netflix. And, I mean, I think we all feel it. It's going to take, oh, God. I mean, it's going to take a while for them to get over it. It's like I was telling somebody the other day, I'm like, is there grief counselors available for this? Because it's like you're almost going through the grief. And then here in New Orleans, if you are a Pelicans fan, which, I'd say 88% of us are, then we got hit with that.
Yeah,
right when I was starting to feel a little bit normal about the Saints, I wake up to my girlfriend's telling me he's requested a trade. And I mean, I started crying. Like, who does that? Who cries? But that's how much we love our people here. It really is a unity like no other city and teams have. And so, now we're trying to get over that as well. So it's just a lot at once. But I think emotionally, I think it's going to take a while for them. I do.
Well, look, I believe this, and I made the statement to you last week, Bob, that it's going to be difficult for them to get over, man.
Yep.
And the only good thing about this could have the effect it's going to make them hungry.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have certain leadership and because you have guys who are at the top of the pecking order who have come close with that divisional loss. Now they've come close at the NFC Championship to lose the way they have done. That could be one of the galvanizing forces there. Like Amy, you said this team had a certain chemistry about it this season. Wow.
Right.
Well, what's going to happen next season? What type of chemistry we're going to see. And this all is going to really tinge on the who are they going to be able to bring back in free agency? What other pieces can they really critically put in place to help this team for next season? Because do we bring Mark Ingram back? I believe we need to. I really do. We need to. Do we need to have another solid cornerback? Eli Apple, bless his heart, I think he's serviceable. I think Eli Apple can step into that role that P.J. Williams is going to vacate more than be the surefire number 2. Do we bring a guy like Delvin Breaux back, who's now healthy?
Yes, that's what I said too. Yes, go ahead.
So, you're right. I mean, there's so many question marks and moving parts. What do we do with Breeze's contract? He's $33 million against the cap and things to that nature. So there's going to be so many interesting things that I think Loomis's challenge for him is how, as a general manager, is he going to manage these pieces that are going to be critical for the Saints' success moving forward.
Yeah, and I think the main piece is Mark Ingram's going to be the one that figures into everything else, obviously. I mean, and I guess Michael Thomas extension as well. So, I mean, that's the first thing. When I saw Mark Ingram after the loss and I saw his press conference and how sad he was, it dawned on me, oh, my God, we got all these free agents, and he's one of them. Yeah. Yikes. And, I mean, you know that going into the game, but then it's just like we lost, punch in the gut. Free agents, punch in the gut. Mark Ingram, I mean, it was just like, oh.
Look, this is a business. We understand that part. But if you look around the National Football League, there are very few teams that kind of fit Mark Ingram's style of running. I know here in the Houston area they would love to have a guy like Mark Ingram. Think about it. Mark has in his career to date, hasn't had a very significant injury. Right? He's had some injuries that have kept him out of games for a time or two, right? But nothing ever as significant as a running back that you would say we got to kick the tires on this old jalopy here, right? So basically, if the Saints are smart, give him a 2-year deal. If you're not too sure, give him a 2-year deal. I think his relationship with Alvin Kamara is so tight, and you see how well these guys play off of one another. You've got to be able to make this a priority.
I agree 100%. I just don't see those two apart quite yet. I don't think they're done yet. I don't even think they've reached their pinnacle yet together.
Exactly.
I just don't.
Exactly.
And I just can't see us letting him go with just the whole thing. And a lot of that has to do with the chemistry. He has been like the rock for a lot of those guys. And I just don't see us letting go of him yet. And that's the first thing I said was 2 years. Just bring him back for 2 years, and hopefully they can make that work.
Well, and that, if Mark would be agreeable to a 2-year contract or even a 2-year with an option for a year 3, that would put him in about 31 years old, I think. And like you said, Kyle, he doesn't have a whole lot of mileage on his legs compared to other running backs of that age, because he was used basically as a rotational player for the first 3 years of his career.
Right.
I think that there's a scenario where Mark can be very affordable to the Saints, like you were kind of talking about, Amy. This time of year, I go on to a website called Spot Track a lot.
Right.
As far as free agencies, market values, etc. And Spot Track is usually pretty accurate with market values of high and mid-range players as far as contracts go. And they're projecting Ingram to have a contract somewhere in the neighborhood of $4.5 to $5 million a year.
Yeah.
If Mark is willing to accept that in the length of the contract, and I agree with both of you, get him for 2 years or two with an option for a third. If he's agreeable to that, then I believe that he will remain a Saint. If he has an opportunity to be the bona fide number one back elsewhere, especially at a higher salary, that's where things get a little dicey. You mentioned Houston. Houston would be ideal for someone like Mark. It's not far up the road. He's went to college at Alabama. Obviously, spent the last 8 years in New Orleans. So if someone is willing to overpay him and say, Mark Ingram, you are going to be our number one back. You're not going to share time with anybody. That's where things can get a little bit tricky for the people in New Orleans.
It can, and I think people need to realize we want him to stay. We like the chemistry with him and Alvin. We want him to be a forever Saint. But, since he signed with us, he's gotten married and had 3 children. So he has a family to think of. And you got to figure that into his thought process. Football isn't a sport you play until you're 65 years old. I mean, these kids, they play into their 30s. I mean, Drew Brees and Tom Brady being exceptions in some part, but he has to think about the future like that, more so than somebody who works a regular job.
Right.
Absolutely.
His contract this season was 4.4 altogether. So I think he could command anywhere from 10 to 12 mil for 2 or 3 year type of deal, up to 15 max if somebody wants to overpay. The thing is, guys, if you don't have a really good system where the running back is going to be the main focus, and I don't know too many of these teams that would utilize him correctly. That's the only concern I would say. But he will have a market, and I believe he will listen. But I just really believe that relationship that he and Alvin Kamara have could be the factor to be able to vie him back more than anything else, because those guys are really close friends.
I agree.
Well, and he has a bunch of close friends on this team, at least from all indications. And the team is very, very close to a championship, as we know, as we've seen. And Mark is such a competitor that he knows what they have in New Orleans, and he knows his type of opportunity. So that could also make a big difference. If the financial numbers are close between New Orleans and someone else, but Mark believes that the Saints, who are a known commodity and friends to him, if Mark believes that the Saints are a little bit closer to winning a championship, that could make a difference. Now, guys, worst case scenario happens. He does go somewhere. Then how high is another running back on the priority list for the Saints this offseason if Mark leaves?
I think they still have to do it anyway. Even if he stays, we still need to have a really solid number 3. And if it's through free agency, I don't see too many guys. If I've been reading the tracker, there are someone who catches my eye. It might be through the draft or something to that nature, but it's a priority to me to be able to get some depth there, to get some depth on the tight end side. We really need to have that, and some depth on the cornerback side. Those are the priorities, in my opinion, and in defensive line. I'm sorry to leave those guys out. But, man, it's going to be highly important that they recognize that they're going to have to be able to bring in that next line of succession pretty soon. Yep,
true. Do y'all know the story, kind of not really changed it, but it's talking about Mark staying in New Orleans. Do y'all know the story about the wives? Mark's wife, Drew's wife, Lauren Morstead. There's, I guess, 15 of the wives, and they get together every week. They text. I think Thomas Morstead said that, Lauren gets 102 texts a day from these women. They have Bible study every Thursday night together, the wives, and they do everything together, birthday parties. And, Coleman, that went to Carolina, his wife is still involved in this. That's how tight-knit of a group these women are. And so that's kind of, they do, like I said, birthdays together. They did a Christmas dinner together. They did a Thanksgiving together. The wives get together and watch the away games. So, people don't realize how deep-rooted this team is, and it trickles down to their wives and their children. And so that's going to be a huge factor in Mark staying here, like you said.
Now
It really will.
Now that you mention it, Amy, I do know that Michael McKenzie's wife is a part of that group as well.
She is. That's right. I forgot about that. Yep.
Rachel. Yeah.
Yep. You're right. I forgot about that. And yeah, I mean, I think they actually got together after the loss. I think it was either Monday or Tuesday night, and had a girls' dinner and cried, and rehashed it away from their husbands, because that's probably the last thing they went to console their wives about was that loss. And so that's how deep rooted these families are for the New Orleans Saints players.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's good to know.
Yeah,
that's a good second line of defense right there, right?
Right. It is. It definitely is.
Is Mark's wife on Twitter? We'll start the campaign that way.
Right. Yeah, and I can't remember for the life of me if she's. I know they met here. I don't remember if she's a New Orleans girl or not, but I'm assuming she probably is. But anyway, I know they're deep rooted here. So, and AJ Klein's wife is in that too. They just adopted a little baby boy from New Orleans.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
precious little baby Cannon James. Oh my God. And what a cute couple. And, New Orleans is one of those places that it's hard to let your roots go. It's hard to uproot yourself from this, such a huge community and family-oriented community. So definitely will be a factor in him staying, I think.
And, guys, we've seen this from veterans before, where they've chosen to stay in New Orleans. I'm sure between the three of us, we could recount some pretty significant names.
Oh yeah.
But veterans have chosen to stay here, and obviously the team, the talent on the field around them, does play a major factor. And it is a business, obviously, so they still need to make a living. But that the insight that you just gave us into the family type of atmosphere and the overall roots, and how close the players' families are to each other. And that reaches all the way back to the Mora teams, if I'm not mistaken, because you've mentioned that kind of thing before, Amy.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. It just seems to be, it's just that type of community. But the chemistry on this team was so different. And the fact that you have these players that were traded away or, picked up by other teams that are still communicating with these wives and still, Skyping for the Bible study or still coming for the children's birthdays and still making a point to have some of the other children that are still here with the New Orleans Saints at their birthday parties and still stay contacted with them speaks volumes about how tight this group is. And it has been. So, it's really tight this year, but I'm thinking the last 3 years it's been pretty intense. This year, blows it out the water, for sure. For sure it does.
And that kind of thing, as great as it is, I would think that makes these kind of losses that they've had the last 2 years in the playoffs even more painful for, obviously, the players. They're the ones that experienced it. Let's not forget that, as much pain as we all feel, double, triple, quadruple, that kind of pain for those poor players. But I think that's why it trickles so deeply throughout the community. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. It's, people always do that hashtag, or in the different groups, they have the little memes that say stuff like "one heartbeat Saints fans." And, people think it's a joke. It's not. And Drew Brees even mentioned something about it, and I won't quote him because I can't, but I remember the gist of it. It's like we all feel it. It's this common feeling that we all have: happiness, sadness. It's the most bizarre. It's pretty bizarre, really and truly, but it really is as cheesy as it sounds, like a one heartbeat. I mean, it's a family in every sense of the word, and it really feel it in the community.
Right.
And it's bizarre when the players mention it because they're like, oh my God, I'm that fan they're talking about. Oh, it is. We are a family. You know what I mean? But they feel it too. It's incredible.
Right. Look, even here in Houston, I had so many people to come talk to me who were Texans fans, and they were like, man, that was, even Cowboys fans were, who know me, were like, man, Kyle, that was pretty busted. If you have people across the nation who recognize this was not 100% that we just got our butts whooped type of game, we did miss some opportunities, yes, but I believe that no call was a very telling and very critical point of the game that would have swung the tide in our favor. And I think we went, Bobby Hebert said our percentages would have gone up 98%, that we would have won the game based upon sports science, whatever it is. But bottom line is, yes, we can rebound. The fan base will rebound. It will make us stronger. It probably will make the fans across the nation galvanize toward us, even if they're not true Saints fans now. But if we get into the playoffs, some of those fans will be vying for us again, just like they vied for us when we finally got back to the Super Bowl after Katrina, So I'm just telling you, this is going to have a positive effect. We can't see it now, but I have to believe that there is going to be some positiveness that will arrive for us in the Who Dat Nation as a result of the trickery and the deceit that the NFL has laid upon us last week. Because, look, man, this is what makes me angry. If earlier this season you could be able to fire a NFL official because he didn't call a false start call in a nonsensical game between the Chargers and the Browns, why in one of the highly most prestigious days of your season, the championship Sunday, when a guy just makes a truly blatant error, why couldn't you say that what's his name, Cal Veto should be gone as a official, and Vinovich should be gone as a head ref? So
especially if you're so safety oriented. All of a sudden they're so safety oriented. It was a helmet to helmet. You should make a statement by even bringing that up. I mean, they're so focused on player safety, and they missed the helmet to helmet. I just can't.
No, not only that, you missed the Fowler slamming Breeze's head.
Yep.
You missed a whole bunch of calls.
Yep.
And if they wanted to say, I heard people say, well, Max Unger, he was holding on the play. Okay, well, let's say if he was holding, the guy had another foul, that PI would have overridden the holding call, right?
Right.
So I don't know, man. I just, all in all, it was fishy how they did it. The guy didn't get together with Turner and the head official Vinovich. They should have gotten together, powwow, and let's discuss this. But no, he was very adamant. He knew he wasn't going to call that play in the favor of the New Orleans Saints. So where do we go from here, Bob? Where do we go? Huh, Amy? What's the next step?
I mean, it's just a day-by-day process. It truly is the grieving. It truly is the grieving process. It really is, and you just take it one day at a time, and every day it'll get better. It's just a tough time right now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And and I'm going to say something mildly crazy, because I know I just said that whatever pain and anger and frustration that we all feel, that the players feel it 5-10 times as much. At the same time, at least it's my opinion, that it's going to be easier for the players and the coaches to get over it.
Yep.
Because when they take that field, even for mini camp in May, and certainly training camp in July and August and the regular season, while not forgotten, that shifts towards the middle and bottom of the priority and focus list, because these guys are competitors, and nothing is more therapeutic for an athlete of any sport on any level than to get back out on that playing field. And part of the reason why this hurts so much for everybody is the magnitude of it, and this was the end.
Well, and we're going to have to get through the Super Bowl and all the Super Bowl hoopla before we can even begin to heal. There's no healing when you think, if you have the mindset that we're supposed to be there and we're supposed to be at this thing, and And so nothing's gonna. It's like pouring salt on an open wound right now. And until we get past the Super Bowl BS, then it's gonna be here. And then hopefully after that, then the fan base can start to heal. And I think that's what we're seeing with Michael Thomas. He's seeing all the Super Bowl hoopla, and it's killing him. I mean, how can it not? It's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and
yeah. Go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Kyle. And like you said, it's the Super Bowl is literally pouring salt in the wound and twisting the knife at the same time. And then, oh God, and I'm not a big NBA fan, not anymore. I used to be. But the news about Anthony Davis that came out on Monday or Tuesday, Amy, I know you and I were texting back and forth about the show right after we found out. And then to hear that Davis's most likely destination seems to be the city of Los Angeles, of all places. And I laughed, and I was like, wow. This is truly an LA invasion.
I just was like, is this real life? Are we getting punked? Even though, or is this a joke? I just, what is going on here? LA again? So.
Well, it's not LA, even Boston.
Right.
Look, guys. I'm going to say this, and I may not be popular after saying this, but Dell Demps had 7 years to get this right.
Started.
So when they fired the coach and he went to OKC and his wife Monty and his wife tragically passed away, was it over a year ago now? Mm-hmm. That was the best example of a team that really supported their coach.
Yep.
I believe if Dell Demps would have put the right pieces in place, these next couple of years, we would have had a championship team in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. He had that opportunity, but he decided to go with Alvin Gentry. No disrespect to Gentry. They still didn't put any pieces in place. Let's be for real, guys.
Oh,
Dell Demps,
keep going.
And then I have to say, well, 7 years, why didn't Loomis recognize this and do something sooner? They need to have somebody who understands the game a lot better. Mm-hmm. And I'm not, look, I have to fire people in my job from time to time. It's not an easy thing to do, because you affect not only that person, family, associates, and everything else, right? But let's call it for what it is. Dell Demps has not performed well as the general manager of the New Orleans Pelicans.
It's a disgrace. He's the worst general manager ever. And, I mean, when David Stern has to nix one of your trade deals because it's so ridiculous.
It was horrible.
But thank God he did, because we got Anthony Davis. We were going to get junk. And the man is in it for celebrity, and that's all he's in it for. He's the worst. He's the absolute
I'll be honest
lousiest general manager ever. And please get rid of him, somebody. And Loomis, please just go to football.
Yeah, well, and, unfortunately, I really believe that the relationship that Mr. Benson had with Demps was really what kept him around, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I know this after this season, this whole front office has to be a makeover. There has to be some sort of we've got to right this ship, because you're going to lose Anthony Davis if you don't get a couple of number one choices or a number one and some cash for him when you trade him. Dell Demps is a failure. So
if anybody thinks Dell Demps is going to do the right thing with the trade, I want to know what's in their head, because he's not going to.
Exactly.
And it worries the crud out of him. He is going to mess it up.
So therefore, if you know right now, because I just read on Twitter tonight, when they were doing the introduction, they didn't even have AD's.
Nope.
He wasn't even part of the intro video that's out. That's there, man. That's saying some things right there. So I believe, and I heard, I think Bobby Hebert and Christian were debating this yesterday as well. I'm wholeheartedly behind Bobby. Let's sit him for the rest of this. You don't want to be here?
Mm-hmm.
Sit your rusty dusty down until we find somebody that's going to give us some money. We want you to sit down because we don't want you hurt, son. We don't want you to jeopardize your future, and we don't want to jeopardize our future as well.
Well, and exactly. And Dell Demp should have figured out 3 years ago that Anthony can't carry a franchise on his back. And I'm not dissing the man by saying that. I love Anthony Davis, but he can't. Why didn't you figure that out sooner? I'm just a girl in the French Quarter, and I figured it out. How can you not see that? And the fact that he's so injury prone, and I know they tried to get him strength and conditioning, and I know they told him, look, if you have a bruised rib, sometimes you have to wrap it up and play. But he kept thinking Anthony was going to carry the franchise, and he can't. He's not that type of player.
He was
a kid when he turned it over to him and wanted him to carry the franchise. He didn't have his,
Thank you.
The maturity level yet.
He only had, 1 or 2 seasons at Kentucky, right? So
he's like 20 years old.
So when he came here, he wasn't at that level. I think now he's at a great supporting level. You always have to have 3 guys to make your roster on any team or any offensive, like defensive side of the ball. Remember, Bob, I told you about this. That's why we have Drew Brees. You have you take your pick out of the Ingram or Kamara, and now we have Michael Thomas. You got your 3. You got your triplets there, right? We need to have some triplets on our defensive side. Yep. So we got Rankins. We don't know if we're going to have Rankins next season at the beginning of the season coming back. So we know we have Jordan, and we have Davis on our and who's going to be out third? Is it going to be Lattimore as our guy? Or what? We need to have some consistency where you have 3 playmakers on each side of the ball. And in the NBA, you have to have that guy that can be your scorer. You got to have that leader, and you got to have that support person through thick and thin. He's going to be either rebounding, defending, or doing something to change the game. And they never put that type of person in place in New Orleans.
Nope.
Guys, and we've seen this problem play out with the Saints as they were rebuilding. 3 straight 7-9 seasons. There was Breeze. There was some wonderful offensive talent and some, but very little defensively outside of Cam Jordan. We've seen them rebuild this roster without blowing it up, which is a testament to Mickey Loomis, Jeff Ireland, and especially Sean Payton and the coaching staff. Now, I do think that a couple of things are on a high priority list for this Saints roster in the offseason. Kyle, you just mentioned it. I think they need another defensive playmaker. I think that they're going to try to target somebody in the secondary specifically, whether it's I know you guys say cornerback. My preference would be safety. But irregardless, we need somebody to make it to be a consistent big play maker in the secondary. That's really the only thing that this defense lacked this year, guys. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah,
I definitely do.
Yeah, Marcus Williams. Love him, love the kid. And I think the 3rd year may be his better year. And I just think he had – people say it's a sophomore slump. I just think he didn't trust himself as much this season. He didn't trust his instincts like he did his rookie season, and probably he had a hangover from that last play in Minnesota. Could be that. But I just felt he played out of position too often. And like that Brandon Cooks pass when PJ was trailing him, that's something he should have seen from the beginning that was happening. I just think he's out of position. Kurt Coleman, I think your days are numbered.
Right.
And who do we get in safety? There are probably some good free agents out there on the market, but we need playmakers. And we've been saying this I said it when we had the Saints News radio. I said it when we had the Crescent City Connection podcast. I'm going to say it now. You need to have another dynamic playmaker at linebacker as well. You need to have that. And I think Marcus Davenport is going to become that dynamic line playmaker, but we need to have somebody that's going to be a game changer. Who's that person?
I've been so depressed I haven't even looked at free agency or free agents. Like I haven't even been able to go there yet. Like I can't get my brain to go to that. Plus the way we are as far as salary caps and so many people have to resign, it's just really hard to focus on that right now. There's so many unanswered questions with our, how many are there? 17, 18 of the players that are up for free agency. That I can't even get past that to see what even is out there in other positions yet.
Yeah, we have 24 free agents from Mark Ingram to.
Is it okay?
Tayal, he's going to probably go. Craig Robertson.
Yeah.
Is a free agent,
that's right.
Guys. Bushrod, of course, and you got guys on the line that could possibly fill in and re-sign. Will Lutz is a free agent. Did we know that?
Yeah,
he is. Banjo.
Cameron Tom is one.
Yep.
To me, the biggest in-house free agents that they have to address. We know Ingram. We mentioned that. Tyler Davison is an unrestricted free agent, as is Chris Banjo, like you mentioned, Amy, and Craig Robertson. Banjo and Robertson are good, solid spot starters and key glue to this special teams unit. Lutz is a free agent. He is restricted, but he is a free agent. And I mean, they're going to have to maneuver some cap money around. They aren't in cap hell, but in order to avoid cap hell, and we've been through that with this franchise. Right. They're going to have to be careful. I really like what they've done the last 2 years, though. They've really targeted certain players or certain positions, be it in the draft or free agency, and that's who they went after. I'm like you, Amy. First of all, I mean, most of you know that listen to the show. Other than one article, I only did one article last week. Now I put out a couple this week, and I'll finish out the week. But I basically went into kind of hiding myself. And I didn't really delve into a short, quick free agency wish list until really yesterday. Kyle, you bring up an interesting point about another playmaking linebacker. I like the way this linebacking core played. I love Demario Davis. Sorry, guys. I have since the start, and I think Anzalone is developing into one heck of a player.
Yeah.
I would like to see A.J. Klein be the first linebacker off the bench, or the number 4 linebacker, rather than one of the starters. And one interesting name out there, and we know him because we've had to play him twice a year, Mr. Quan Alexander, I think would look great in the New Orleans Saints uniform.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to have the next few weeks to talk about different free agencies. We don't know what kind of names other teams are going to release, or perhaps even put up for a trade. But that leads me to this question. I was asked on a show a couple days ago, and I was shame on me because I was sort of blindsided by the question. But I want to ask you guys, is there anybody on this Saints roster that could be a potential cap cut or perhaps even trade bait? With that, we're not saying this to be clickbait or over dramatic or anything like that, but is there someone on either side of the ball that you guys think, they might move on from this guy and nobody's really talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I keep hearing about trade is, trade Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, that's just everybody. But like I said, I haven't gone there yet I haven't really thought that far ahead. I don't see any looming surprises at present. Maybe it's just because I haven't thought about it, but I'm kind of at a loss for that right now. I don't really have an answer for that, to be honest.
Well, I don't know if he is going. I think Eli Apple is one.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to be taken by anybody because,
right.
He's not really that high on the list of priorities for a team to have somebody like him. If you want to look at another guy, man, you may want to just say, golly,
I know.
Unger. I mean, but Unger is 32. He's going to have a salary of almost 14 mil or something. That might be one to look at. So do you go because Cameron Tom is a free agent and Laribus is a free agent? Do you sign one of those two guys to be your center? Unger.
True.
And I'll be honest with you, he did not have a great year this year.
No.
It was shocking, to be honest.
Yeah, he missed some critical blocks. Drew had to rush some passes, the Dallas game, the Minnesota game, and that L.A. game. That's because of Unger, guys.
No, you're right.
So I'm just saying if there's somebody who has some value out there, everybody could use a really good center. Unger might have another couple years in him, but Clapp can take over for Unger. I forgot about him.
I love Will Clapp. I know his family very well, and I love that kid. And to see him on the Saints has been so surreal, and I think he's done amazing.
Yeah.
I really – and so I second that.
The only other two guys I can think that have some good value right now is Von Bell and David Amniamata. So,
yeah.
Other than that, I don't know if you want to get rid of David. So,
the injury to Rankins, I'd be willing to bet you each a cup of coffee that he is nowhere near ready.
Oh no,
for games until maybe mid-season.
That
makes
no way.
Onyemata's presence that much better. Not only Onyemata's presence, but hopefully re-signing Tyler Davison is a higher priority. I hadn't thought about Unger there. You both bring up great points because I agree with you. He was probably when those five linemen were healthy, he was probably the weak spot. I'm not saying a lot. I mean, Unger is still better than most of the centers in the league, but for him, he had a disappointing year. And we already know that the team is extremely high on both Cameron Tom and Will Clapp. So I agree with you. You guys talked me into it. I could see them potentially moving on from Unger, especially if it were to save them a good cap number, and letting Clapp and Tom compete for that starting center position. With the guy that comes up on the short end, being the main interior guy off of the bench, which, as we know with the Saints, has been key over the last few seasons.
Well, I'm gonna throw a name out to you guys. What about Pete?
Oh yeah.
That's when I said I was blindsided a bit by a podcast the other day when they asked me that question. I named one guy on each side of the ball, and Andrus Peat was mine. Not that Pete played poorly. We know he's found a home at left guard, and when he's playing well and healthy, he is as good as they come. I mean, he beats people up. But having said that, he could also be a valuable commodity. His contract is up after next season,
right?
And
exactly.
One would expect he would command a pretty big cap number anyway. One that the Saints may not be able to match, not with players like Von Bell, Marcus Williams, Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Thomas. Those guys are all coming up in the next year or two.
Kamara too, right? So you're looking at. He had a 4-year, $11 million deal last season. His salary was almost $3 million. So, guys, I mean, we're looking at he has value. He has significant value for someone who needs some offensive line help. Yeah,
and Amy, I agree with what you said too. I mean, Clapp and Tom both played well in some significant opportunities this year. So either or both of them seem capable of stepping into a solid role without very much of a drop-off, which is key. I think the offensive line as a whole, what happens with it this offseason, even if they keep all the starting pieces in place, they need some depth that they can count on. Because when Armstead went down for a significant period of time, I think all three of us would agree that offensive line really struggled down the stretch.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a good point, too. So what do we do there? We're going to have to find somebody who was like Clemente, who was so versatile that he could play any position, right? And we're going to – Armstead keeps getting hurt every year. So who are we going to – do we keep Pete? Do we put him out for a market? Or do we find somebody through the draft or free agency that can be able to sit the bench or be able to service one of those spots, man? So that's going to be a very critical play by Loomis and how those guys are able to handle this free agency coming up.
You know what position that it's fun, but it's just frustrating at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only one of the three of us that even started to mention what is probably the number one priority for this team was Amy. And I think I was the one that rudely interrupted her too.
No.
Tight end.
Yeah.
Tight end, I think, should be this team's number one roster priority this offseason. Do you guys both agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
How many years am I going to scream tight end from the rafters? Like,
exactly.
Tight end. What did I do at the beginning of the season when y'all had me on?
Yeah.
Tight end, please. Santa Claus, can I have tight end for Christmas? Please. I mean, what is the deal? It's like that missing link, but then so is a cornerback, and then really and truly safety. So, oh my God, can we get a tight end that's not a Butterfingers, please?
They tried with Arnold and the big that 4-point swing right there was the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Watson's illness was highly unexpected. We couldn't account for that. And Josh Hill being concussed, we couldn't account for that as well. So that really showed us that we really need to have more of a tight end presence. You heard the rumors about Graham. Well, Green Bay came back out and said, no, we're not getting rid of him.
And
wait, did they say they weren't getting rid of him? Did they come out? I didn't hear that because I'm, low key boycotting.
And look, none of us, I don't think, are sitting here saying that we need the next Jimmy Graham, because in his prime, that man was nearly unstoppable. But also, he is well past his prime. What this team needs, I think, is a legitimate threat down the seam, because nothing clears out the middle of the field for Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara more than a tight end that can make plays in the middle of the field. And what I can see the Saints doing is going after, like I said, I've only been doing this over the last. He's a solid block, and there's a handful of them that will be available. Because you need a guy that can block too. You need some versatility out of that tight end position, so that this offense remains unpredictable even out of its base formation. But I can think bringing in like a mid-level veteran with some upside, like a Max Williams or a couple other names. And they should really, and Amy, I know you were yelling about this last year, and I was right side by side with you. They should really prioritize one in the draft as well. Now, they don't have the picks they did last year, but I would not turn a blind eye at all if they use their second-round pick on a tight end, even if they do bring in a veteran.
Yeah, that's kind of what I had thought too. That's the other thing, the draft. We don't have any picks. Oh, yeah.
Look, man, there's some small school guys out there that could be really good. I know there's some really good young guys who were at the Senior Bowl who come from like North Dakota State on the mountain high, under the bridge type of university.
No, I hear you on that.
So I need to say this, man. Every year the fans keep saying, we need this, need this, need this. And remember how stubborn for years the Saints decided, nah, we don't need this. And then they started to kind of listen. People say it's a result of Ireland's presence or not. Bottom line, if you don't get any more depth in these critical line positions, we're going to have an issue.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, start from the inside, work your way out. Inside out, inside out.
Yep.
That should be the philosophy still for the New Orleans Saints.
Yep, I agree with that completely.
All right, guys, I know I got to wrap it up, but Amy, any last words? Bob, any last words?
Just to the fans, y'all keep your heads up. We all in this together. We're all sad. Let's get through the Super Bowl and then refocus. And that's it.
Works for me. That works for me. My parents, my family traditionally has like a little family get together, and my mom cooks her world famous lasagna. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Now I'm sure they'll have the pregame and then the game on. But I have a strategy around that, guys. I'm going to pick up my daughter from IUP, the day before. But she has to go back Sunday night because she has class Monday morning. So guess who doesn't have to watch the game, because I found an excuse out of it.
Good for you. Good for you.
Well, look, man, I tell you, it used to be every year on the Super Bowl, I would be driving back and forth from New Orleans to Atlanta, going back to school. This year, the excuse is I'm going to go to a couple Super Bowl parties to just mingle. I've never done that in probably past 10 plus years, so this year that's my excuse not to really pay attention to the game. But Who Dat Nation, look, either way, of course, majority of the people going to be rooting for the New England Patriots. If you're a Saints fan, I know people are cringing at the fact that Tom Brady could be able to bring home another Super Bowl championship, but I just do not want the Los Angeles Rams to win.
And Jim Everett, if you're listening, we love you, partner. And if you were quarterbacking the Rams, believe me, we would back you 100%. But we can't right now. We love you, but we can't.
It's too fresh. It's too fresh, man. That's all it is. But anyway, guys, I hope everybody stays safe. If you're going to be in the quarters celebrating, watching the 2009 championship game that most of the bars going to play, just go ahead and still be safe and enjoy yourself this weekend. Amy, Bob, stay warm up there. Amy, you as well. I know New Orleans, you guys got a little freeze coming your way as well. I just want to say, look, we have a brighter future. Just keep there. Maintain. Amy, tell the people how they can find you in the French Quarter at your shop.
I am about a block down from Cafe Des Moines at 816 Decatur. It's called Head to Toe, and it's a men's and women's boutique. So come see me. Who Dats get discounts, too.
Ooh, I like discounts.
I will attest to that. We love your we loved your store when we were down there. We were hoping to get back down there before we left, but I love meeting you in person. Love the product you have.
Thank you.
We're definitely going to do it again for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, look, man, we need to have you on more often.
Yeah, whenever. I'm here. You know where to find me.
Hopefully it was therapeutic for you.
It was. Oh, my gosh, I feel so much better. And I got a text from my best girlfriend, and she's like, "You're making me feel better." So hopefully I touched some other people, too.
Awesome. Yeah. Bob, tell everybody how they can be able to follow you on social media as well as your writings on the Canal Street Chronicles.
Guys, I'm everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Bob Rose. Twitter, my personal handle is @BobbyR2613. I'm creeping up on 2,000 followers, so if y'all don't already follow me, please do so. I will figure out, I will find a gift around the house to send to you or something. But as Kyle mentioned, my writings are through the Canal Street Chronicles, which are on Facebook, Canal Street Chronicles, and also on Twitter, @SaintCSC. And if you are on Facebook and you are not a member of the Bayou Blitz Facebook group, shame on you. And get a hold of Kyle, myself, or Amy, and we will make sure that you get in. I think we have a fun little group, very informative. Everybody supports each other and supports our saints and respects the ones who don't. So, yeah, if you follow our show or follow our writings and are not a member of the group, please send us a join request. Or if you have a family member or friend that you think would like what we do, same thing. We welcome everybody with open arms.
Awesome. And guys, don't forget, you can be able to follow us at Saints News at www.saintsnewsnetwork.com, where you can follow Barry Hurst and all of his featured columns. And you can check us out on saintspodcast.com and listen to all the podcasts in the Who Dat Nation, including the Bayou Blitz. And we have guys like Under the Dome, as well as our friend Deuce Wyndham and the Who Dat Confessional are part of the lineup. All right, guys, let's have a good one. You notice we didn't care to pick anybody for the Super Bowl other than me saying anybody other than the Rams. It could be, look, I'll even choose a referee for this game if he wants to be there. But other than the Rams, that's my pick. Look, just have a great time. Be safe out there. Who Dat, baby? We'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye.
Yes.